crossed lines others feared to get near, and held the weight of decisions heavy enough to break men twice his size. But nothing tested him the way that night in the valley did, the night he and his K9, Shadow, learned what true loyalty meant, the kind that didn't come from training or command but from something far deeper. The mission was simple on paper. Extract a hostage, a woman named Anna Westfield, kidnapped while working as a relief nurse. But simple missions had a way of turning into storms. And storms, Levi knew, didn't ask permission before they came. They entered the compound under moonlight so thin it felt like a whisper. Shadow padded beside him, silent as fog, his dark coat blending into the night. Levi trusted that dog more than he trusted most people. Shadow had saved him from ambushes, traps, and snipers. But tonight, Levi sensed something different in the way Shadow moved, as if the dog felt the danger humming in the ground beneath them. Inside the compound, Levi found Anna tied to a metal pole, her face bruised, her wrists raw from struggling. She was conscious but weak, her eyes widening with fear and then trembling relief when she saw the Navy SEAL crouching beside her. Her voice cracked. "Are you real?" Levi cut the ropes. "Very real, and we're getting you home." But as the moment of hope flickered, the world outside exploded. Gunfire erupted like thunder splitting the night. Shadows moved between walls, shouting, running, boots pounding. The enemy had been waiting. Either they were tipped off, or Levi was about to face the worst luck of his career. He pulled Anna behind him as bullets tore into the concrete. Shadow growled low, pressing against Levi's leg, waiting for a command. Levi whispered, "Guard." Shadow's body stiffened, muscles coiled like steel, eyes locked forward. Levi needed extraction, and he needed it now. "Raven 6, this is Viper 1. We're compromised. Hostile numbers are too high. I need immediate evac." The radio hissed with interference, then crackled. "Copy, Viper. Moving to extraction point Charlie. You have 8 minutes. 8 minutes. They wouldn't survive 2 if they stayed where they were." Levi grabbed Anna's hand. "Stay close. No matter what." Anna nodded, terrified but trusting the stranger who had come into hell to bring her out of it. They darted through the narrow hallway as gunfire followed them like a shadow that never tired. Twice, bullets grazed the walls inches from Anna's head. Once, Levi shoved her down just before a grenade detonated behind them, shaking the ground. Dust fell like ash. A beam collapsed. Smoke filled the air. They were running toward the exit when 3 enemy fighters burst into the hallway. Levi reacted instantly, pushing Anna behind a pillar as he fired. Shadow lunged like a dark streak, tackling one of the fighters by the arm and dragging him down in a violent blur. The second man fired wildly. Levi's bullet found him first. The third man fled. Levi motioned for Anna to move. "Keep breathing. Keep going. Keep your eyes on me." Anna nodded, though tears streamed down her face. "Why would you risk so much for me?" Levi didn't have time to answer, but something in her trembling voice stayed with him. They reached the courtyard, only to freeze. They were surrounded. At least a dozen men. Maybe more. Too many rifles. Too little cover. Levi pulled Anna behind a low wall, but the enemy moved quickly, firing from all directions. Bullets sparked off the stone. Levi hunkered down, shielding Anna with his body. "Raven 6, we're pinned down." Levi shouted into the radio. No answer. They were too far from the ridge. Too deep in the valley's choke. Levi gritted his teeth. He had been in bad situations before, but not with an innocent life clinging to him. Not with Shadow beside him, ready to die because that was what loyalty meant. Anna clutched his arm. "We're not going to make it," she whispered. Levi forced his breath steady. "Not while I'm breathing. You hear me? Not while I'm breathing." Shadow let out a bark. Sharp, loud, warning. Levi peeked over the wall just long enough to see movement. Men advancing, reloading, spreading out. They were closing in for the kill. Levi knew they couldn't hold the position. But they also couldn't run. They were cornered, trapped, outgunned. And time was draining like water cupped in a trembling hand. A bullet slammed into the stone inches from Levi's head. Another ricocheted near Anna. Shadow growled again, more intensely, and Levi realized the dog wasn't afraid. Shadow was preparing himself, bracing, determined. Levi whispered, "Shadow, no." But the dog looked at him with those deep, loyal eyes, and Levi understood. Shadow was ready to give everything. The dog nudged Anna's leg, almost like telling her, "We fight for you." Gunfire cracked again. Levi fired back desperately, but he was running out of ammunition. He had one magazine left. Anna pressed a shaking hand to her chest. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "You shouldn't have come for me." Levi turned to her, furious and tender all at once. "You're a human life. That's the mission. That's always the mission." Shadow barked again, then sprinted out from behind the wall. "No," Levi roared, but it was too late. Shadow ran straight into the hail of gunfire, zigzagging with animal instinct, taking attention away from Levi and Anna. The enemy pivoted, firing at the moving threat. Shadow leapt onto one man, knocking him down, then darted toward the next. Levi used the distraction, grabbing Anna's arm and pulling her toward a narrow opening between walls. Gunfire rang out. A yelp tore the night. Levi felt his heart crack. Shadow. The dog wasn't visible, only dust and distant silhouettes. Anna's tears fell. "He saved us." Levi swallowed hard. "We're not done yet." They sprinted through the opening, ducking behind stacked crates. Bullets zipped past them. Anna stumbled. Levi caught her. "One step at a time. Don't stop." "I can't." "Yes, you can." They reached the outer gate. Levi kicked it open. Beyond it was open ground. Too exposed, too far from the extraction ridge. They were still in danger. And Shadow. Levi couldn't stop thinking about him lying somewhere behind those walls, bleeding alone. But he had to get Anna to safety. That was the mission. That was the oath. Raven 6, I have the package but we're exposed. I need guidance. Finally the radio crackled. "Viper, flare up if possible. We're scanning for your signal." Levi looked up. The cliff was far, too far, but he reached into his vest and pulled a flare. "Anna, when I fire this, run straight for those rocks. Don't look back. I won't leave you," she cried. "You won't," he said. "I'm right behind you." He fired the flare. Red light lit the valley, and immediately the enemy spotted them. Shouts erupted. Gunfire began again. Anna ran, stumbling over rough ground. Levi followed her, firing back where he could. It still felt impossible. Every step felt like a battle. Then Levi heard it, a sound he thought he'd never hear again. A growl, weak, raw, but alive. Levi turned, and his breath caught. Shadow was limping out of the smoke, his side bleeding, his left leg dragging, but he was alive. And he was coming straight toward them, determined, unstoppable. Anna gasped, covering her mouth. Levi's throat tightened. "Shadow, you stubborn, brave boy." But the enemy saw the movement too, and they aimed. "Get down," Levi shouted, diving over Anna. Shadow, limping, pushed forward, and then, in a moment that felt carved out of eternity, the wounded dog threw himself in front of Levi as a burst of gunfire lit the night. The bullets hit Shadow's vest. The impact knocked him sideways. Levi caught him mid-fall, muscles shaking with grief and admiration. Shadow whined, but he wasn't done. He looked up at Levi with eyes full of trust, pain, and something unbelievably strong, love. Not trained loyalty, not conditioned obedience, something deeper. Levi lifted Shadow into his arms. "Hold on, I've got you." They reached the extraction rocks just as the helicopter descended, wind whipping dust around them. The crew pulled Anna in first. Then Levi climbed aboard with Shadow in his arms. The moment the doors slammed shut, Levi collapsed to his knees. Anna knelt beside him, tears falling freely. She stroked Shadow's head gently. "You saved us, both of you." Levi pressed his forehead against Shadow's. "You're the bravest soul I've ever known." Shadow's tail gave a faint thump. Then another. Anna smiled through her tears. "He's a fighter," Levi whispered. "Yeah, he always has been." When they reached base, medics rushed Shadow to surgery. Levi waited outside the door, hands shaking, something they rarely did. Anna sat beside him, leaning against his shoulder. "You gave everything for me," she whispered. "Why?" Levi exhaled slowly. "Because the world is dark enough. Kindness shouldn't need permission." Hours later, the door opened. A vet stepped out, tired but smiling. He pulled through. "He's going to make it." Levi closed his eyes, letting a breath escape like a prayer. Anna squeezed his hand. "He's your hero." Levi shook his head softly. He's everyone's. Over the next weeks, as Anna recovered, she spent hours with Levi and Shadow, growing closer to them both in ways no one expected. She learned about Levi's quiet strength, his sense of duty, his scars. Levi learned about her resilience, her compassion, the way she never once blamed the world for the pain she experienced. And Shadow, healed but still limping, became the bridge between them. One evening, Anna rested her hand on Shadow's back and looked at Levi. "If your dog can keep fighting after all that, maybe the rest of us can, too." Levi smiled. "That's what he does. He reminds us of the good we're still capable of." Months later, when Anna finally returned home, she invited Levi and Shadow to visit. And they did, again and again, until visits became something deeper, something that felt like home, something built not from dramatic rescues but from ordinary kindness. Shadow lived years longer than anyone expected, years filled with love, peace, and soft grass under the same paws that once ran through fire. And every time Levi looked at him, he remembered that night in the valley. The night the world seemed lost. The night Hope walked beside him on 4 wounded legs. The night Levi Turner learned that sometimes the bravest hearts beat inside those who can't speak, but understand everything. Because in the end, the mission wasn't just about saving a life. It was about rediscovering why life was worth saving. And the dog who risked everything had given them more than survival. He had given them a reason to believe again.